Supposed to be going yet. Help, help, help. Somebody stole my baby. Somebody stole my baby. Well, this was my new client, Jean, and she was frantic. The anxiety in her voice was palpable, and if a baby had been stolen, but I knew she didn't have a baby. So I said, Jean, what do you mean? What happened? She said, I had a beautiful new website created. I wrote new content, had new photos. It was gorgeous. Yeah, so, well, it launched, and a couple of weeks later, I found out that someone else had taken content from there, had even taken my About page. Wow. So, what did you do? Well, I challenged the person who had stolen my stuff, and the person said, you didn't tell me I couldn't. What? So I talked to my website designer who said, well, yeah, you need to have policies. You need to have terms and conditions and a disclaimer and a privacy policy. It tells people what they can do and not do when they visit. But I'm a designer. I don't do policies. So Jean had no legal leg to stand on. What was she to do? Well, we discussed how she could move forward from that, how we could put those policies in place and, work around that terrible ordeal. It might not go away, but it wouldn't have to happen again. She was a creator, and she had put blood, sweat, and tears into this. That's why it was her baby. Copyright skills are risk management tools that she could use, that we all can use. So write that down. Copyright skills are risk management tools. Would you want those kinds of surprises that she got? Would you like to prevent those? Maintain peace of mind and your profitability? I bet you might. Well, let's go to John. John came rushing into his printer's office. Mark was his printer, and he said, look at these wonderful postcards I have. They're part of my new marketing campaign. It's going to be fantastic. We've worked weeks and weeks and months on this, and I'm just so very excited. See them? And Mark said, yeah. Did you get a license or permission to use these characters? Oh, no, we took them off the internet. What do you mean, permission? Well, Mark said, these are protected by copyright and trademark. Oh, well, my graphic designer said he changed them 25%, so they'd be okay. And Mark said, there's no percentage in the copyright law. And if you can recognize these characters as, the originals, like this, oh, super guy, we're so glad you're here. That doesn't take much imagination to know who they're referring to. So I can't print these. What do you mean you can't print these? Because they violate copyright and trademark. Well, I'll sign a waiver. You won't get into trouble. No, if I'm aware of infringement, I can get into trouble also. It's both our reputations on the line here. Ugh. Well, I'm going to go find somebody who will print them. Ugh. Mark was concerned because John was a long-time steady client. He hated to lose him, but integrity was integrity, law was the law. Copyright skills are risk management tools, and there was a risk there. Well, 2 weeks later, John circled back. No one else would print them either. So he had to scrap the whole campaign, start over from scratch, lost all that time and energy and money. Just, yes, you can use things from the internet. You can be a consumer, but you have to be very mindful of what the rules and conditions are. You don't have to be a copyright guru, but being aware of some basics. Now, you know what would have happened if those postcards had gone out? These characters were from Marvel Comics, now owned by Disney. Yeah, Disney would have been all over him, would have taken him to court. Because Disney has deep pockets, they would have just prolonged and prolonged and prolonged and bled him dry. John probably would have lost his business, maybe his home. Copyright skills are what? Risk management tools. Write that down. Copyright skills are risk management tools. Now let's turn to the world of ChatGPT and AI. That's sort of a hybrid blend, a Wild West kind of thing. What are the rules? The database of content that ChatGPT uses and was trained on was done by scraping content from the internet. Indiscriminately, didn't matter whether it was true, false, biased, copyright protected, public domain, didn't matter. And they claimed to be doing something new, a new purpose. So they had taken all this content, put it into a stew, I'd like to say a stew, put it through a blender, and so supposedly no original works, no original phrases would come together when it was dipped into. They called that fair use. Well, as you can imagine, the creators, the copyright owners, the authors, the artists, the photographers, the musicians, weren't too excited about this. This has been a complete surprise. They had not been asked for permission, nor had they received compensation. They were not happy, and they considered this theft and copyright infringement. So where are we? If we use this content, are we infringers? And is this whole database thing illegal? How are we supposed to stay safe? There are dozens of copyright cases based on these in the court system. And it's going to take a long time for those to filter through. Probably will go to the Supreme Court, but it could take a long time. Some of these cases take a decade. So what to do in the meantime? Well, let's exercise copyright skills, because copyright skills are risk management tools. That's right. Copyright skills are risk management tools. So, do you see what I'm getting at here? We can create, we can produce, protect, promote and protect intellectual property, and promote our income. So I hope that this gives you some ideas. Look at your website. Do you have protection on it? Where are you getting your content? How are you using ChatGPT? Copyright skills are risk management tools. Barbara Ingrassia.